It's estimated that 1 million people worldwide suffered from starvation in 2012. This means 1 person out of 7. However, our planet produces enough food to feed its entire populations. Therefore, hunger shouldn't exist.
India, with the population of around 1 billion people, is home to a quarter of all undernourished people in the world, which is about 800 million. This means that they have the most undernourished population. Aside from this, 48% of women from ages 15 to 49 are anemic, and 44% of children under age 5 are underweight. This shows that hunger in India is a critical problem. Children have a higher chance of dying from malnourishment than from any other child disease, like malaria. India has around 196.4 million people who go hungry every day, and they also have 24% of all under 5 deaths. What makes it worse is that food is naturally lost because of poor supply chain management and is unable to reach the hands of hunger most of the time. As for China, around 150 million people there are undernourished despite China's progress, which has placed it as the second largest economy in the world. Additionally, in this large country, children suffering malnutrition are hurt by other severe diseases, like stunted brain growth and anemia. Most of the suffering occurs in the rural areas. The urban areas used to be terrorized by hunger, but the numbers have gone down drastically. Now, all China has to help is the rural area, where more than 70 million people live on less than $1 a day. Up to 51% of kids around ages 8 to 12 suffer from anemia. Studies also say that rural people are behind urban people in terms of academics, in part because of their food habits.
Let's take 3 countries to highlight the problem: Bolivia in Latin America, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Ethiopia in Africa. These countries are struggling with the scourge of hunger, even though they have huge potential in terms of food and agriculture. Bolivia is 35 times bigger than Belgium with an equal number of inhabitants. A third of its land is dedicated to agriculture and livestock farming, and 40% of its population depends on agriculture for its livelihood. However, more than a quarter of Bolivia suffer from malnutrition. Bolivia is the poorest country in Latin America. Congo's natural resources could feed the entire African continent. 58% of the Congolese population depends on agriculture, but this country has the highest percent of undernourished people in the world, 70% of its population. There are 64 million farmers in Ethiopia, or 77% of the country's population. The largest cattle herds in Africa are in Ethiopia, enough to supply milk and meats to all of East Africa, and yet 41% of Ethiopians are undernourished. Countries populated by farmers are those most affected by hunger and malnutrition. Across the planet, over 60% of the people who go hungry are the families of farmers and animal breeders or fishermen.
In comparison, only 2 to 12% of Europeans, depending on the country, are farmers, and in the USA, only 2%. These countries are affected by a different problem. Their population suffers from obesity. In the USA, 1 in 3 people are obese, while hunger ravages the poorest across the globe. How do we get to this point?
The answer is not to say, it's always been like this, nor can we lay the blame on the wars or natural disasters, though they make the lives of poor people much more challenging. No, it's the policies in both the North and the South which are the cause of this situation. Firstly, trade policies with reduction or even absence of taxes. There could be agricultural goods circulating freely between the markets of poor countries and rich countries. This is trade liberalization. Vast farm businesses from the north use tractors, mechanical equipment, and fertilizers at affordable prices. Farmers in the south are poor and often have only their hands, some tools, and a watering can, if they are lucky enough to have access to water. They barely have access to fertilizers and quality seeds, and sometimes even access to land isn't guaranteed.
Take milk production, for example. An African cow produces 1 to 5 liters of milk, while a European cow produces between 25 and 30 liters of milk. To allow farmers from North and South to compete in the same global market through free trade is like making a featherweight fight a heavyweight. Secondly, agricultural policies. An industrialized country's agricultural develops through strong and ambitious policies that enable the countries to become self-sufficient and even produce surpluses in some cases.
To end the suffering of farmers, who account for half the world's population, need to be encouraged and supported so they can feed themselves and their families. How can we help this to be achieved? We can help to end this by holding on all political leaders to create a favorable framework for family-based agriculture conditions. We can help to stop hunger by staying informed and inform people around us about hunger right now. Earth has enough food to feed everyone on it, but one day all of the food will get to everyone on it.